Good morning. Welcome to the next session in your third module. Also, it covers the instruction set from module 1. So to say, module 1, 2, 3, and even fourth module instructions are also uh, being discussed in this particular session. What I have done here, I have consolidated the instructions based on their appearance in your modules in the chronological order. In your textbook, they are actually arranged as per the alphabets. It becomes difficult to locate them. So what I have done here, arrange them as they appear in your syllabus, and also as per the programs that you are going to write starting from first module. So let us start with the first instruction. The five addressing modes already we have seen in the previous mm, uh, video sessions, as well as the Google Class information that I have shared with you. So the same thing now is discussed in an exhaustive manner. Like five addressing modes are, to begin with, the register addressing mode is there, indirect addressing mode is there, direct, then immediate addressing mode is there, okay, index addressing mode is there. So based on all the addressing modes, these instructions can be written. Okay, the first one is move instruction, destination byte, comma, source byte. Okay, so as far as the five addressing modes are concerned, how the move instruction works, that's being listed here. To begin with, register A is the destination, that is accumulator is the destination. Accumulator is the destination. If you start with the immediate addressing mode, whatever data you would like to transfer to accumulator or you want to load accumulator with, you can write this instruction. If I tell you one small example, you can write move a comma hash 25h. So 25x number is directly loaded into accumulator. You can even load accumulator with the decimal number, like move a comma 10. If you write only 10, no h, only 10, then 10 is going to be loaded into accumulator, that is decimal number. And even the best part of this instruction is you can write the binary number also, like 10101100b. You need to write b there at the end. Once you write that, binary number also can be stored in the accumulator in the binary format, I should say. Okay, in all these five varieties, a is the destination. Like if you write a comma rn, rn could be your r0, r1, r2, like that. From those registers, the data is picked up and it is loaded into accumulator. One example, if I want to quote here, it would be move a comma r2. Whatever data is there in register r2, that will come to the accumulator. So it is written here, move a comma r3. Move a comma direct means you can write here a memory location. One example is also given here, move a comma 30h, 40h, like that. Whatever is present in that memory location, RAM memory location, that data is going to be loaded into the accumulator. And the next one is your indirect, like move a comma at ri. Ri means r0 or r1. Only r0 and r1 are used here for indirect addressing mode. The other registers cannot be used. Yeah? It's a, what you can say, it's a condition in 8051. In 8051 programming, that's a condition. Other registers can be used for storing some other, storing for some other purpose. Like you can use them in counters or any other purpose. That's not a restriction. But as far as indirect addressing mode is concerned, you have to use only R0 and R1. This was already discussed in the regular class also. Exhaustive explanation I had given there. I'm just recalling what we have seen in the normal class. Okay. R0 is pointing to the memory location. R0 is pointing to the memory location. So that data you can put into A. Instead of writing move A comma 30h, first 30h content will come to R0 and then it comes to A. That is why it is called as indirect addressing mode. Hmm. Uh, One good thing with this addressing mode is, once you write this, then you can keep on writing increment or not. So successively, the next memory locations data will be coming to accumulator. If you want in your program, it will keep on coming. Okay. So the next one is register A is the source. Register A is the source, and the destination can be all others. Like if you write move Rn comma A, one example is move R3 comma A. Content of accumulator will come to the register A to the memory location. Direct means memory location. A to R0 or R1, which are pointing to the memory location. R0, which is pointing to the memory location. So that so in all the three cases here, your accumulator is the source, whereas in the earlier set, accumulator was the destination. Okay, coming to the third variety, Rn is the destination. That is, it can be R2, R3, like that. Okay, if you write here move R3 comma hash 40, then 40 will be stored in register. Move R3 comma A, if you write, content of accumulator will come to register R3, because the register R3 is the destination. If you write here something like R2 comma 37H, content of memory location 37H will come to the register R3. So like that, Rn is the destination here. Okay, N can be anything starting from R0 to R7. Better you use R2 to R7. R0 and R1 exclusively you use for indirect addressing mode. But if registers are in short, when you are working with the program, big programs, if you are falling short of the registers, then you can even use R0 and R1. That's not a big thing. But if you are using the indirect addressing mode, you need to be very careful there. R0 and R1 you use only for that thing, that it is pointing to the location. That one only you have to use as far as R0 and R1 are concerned. Okay. Next, coming to the next set, destination is a direct address. Like memory locations are the destinations. One or two examples, if I want to quote here, I can write move 42 H comma A. Then what happens? Content of the accumulator will come to memory location 42 H. If I write here something like direct, if I write 32 H comma 42 H, content of 42 H, that is that memory location, will come to 32H, and likewise for the other varieties here. Now destination is an indirect address held by R0 or R1. Like if I write move at R1 comma hash 40, then what happens? 40 will come to the memory location which is pointed by R1. If I write at R1 comma A, content of the accumulator will go to the location which is actually pointed by R1. And here also, if I write something like R0 comma 37H, content of the 37H memory location will go to that memory location which is pointed by R0. So it is indirect. Okay, directly it will not go. In between one register is used here, that will take care of it. That is R0 or R1. Okay. The next variety is move destination bit comma source bit. These are bit addressing instructions, single bit instructions, you can say. Move bit data. This move instruction copies the source bit to the destination bit. Only one bit. The example is move P1.2 or P1.2 comma C. If you write, what happens? Carry bit is transferred to the port P1.2. And if I write C comma P2.5, port bit to P2.5 is transferred to carry bit. So only one bit. Maybe it is 0 or 1. If you want to clear the carry, earlier to this instruction, you make it 0. You make the carry 0, and the 0 will come to the port bit, that is P1.2. And if you want to clear the carry with the help of the port bit, you can use this instruction. P2.5, you clear it first, and then bring it to the carry, that is move C. Then carry bit is also going to be cleared. As and when you want them in your program, you use them. Then the third instruction is move DPTR hash 16-bit value. its function is load data pointer. This instruction loads the 16-bit DPTR register with a 16-bit immediate value. Like if you write move DPTR hash 4567H, what happens? DPTR is a 16-bit register actually. So your 4567 is loaded there, and out of that, in the lower byte, 67 is loaded. In the higher byte, 45 is loaded. One variation is also there. Move DPTR comma hash my data. Instead of loading it directly into DPTR, you can go to that particular target which is indicated by my data. Starting from my data, you can store some ASCII characters there. Something like if you want to bring in the word India, starting from my data, there all the characters are stored. So you take them into DPTR one by one. One by one, you can take one program we have seen in the last session. You can just refer to that in the module number 2, I should say. In the module number 2, we have written one program where we have made the usage of this particular instruction. Okay, next. The fourth instruction is move C A comma at A plus BC. This instruction is mainly concentrating on the program counter register. Program counter. Program counter is associated with your stack pointer. Usually for the push and pop instructions, when you use the push and pop instructions, this instruction will be of great help actually. Its function is move code byte. This instruction moves a byte of data located in the program code to A. Program code uh, to A. A means accumulator. The address of the desired byte of data is found by adding the program counter to the original value of the accumulator. Continuation of that is move C comma A at A DPTR. Earlier it was a program counter, now DPTR 16-bit. Function is again same, move code byte. Okay, on chip ROM content as well as the address is formed by adding the original value of the accumulator to the 16-bit DPTR register. Okay, one example also I have given here, move C A comma at A plus DPTR. Next, move X destination byte comma source byte. X means external. X means external. Okay, one example I have given here, move X A comma at DPTR. What it does, this moves into the accumulator a byte from the external memory whose address is pointed to by DPTR. Okay, got it? External memory, not the inbuilt. Sometimes your inbuilt memory is exhausted, is not sufficient to hold the opcodes as well as your data. So that time we take the help of external memory. So when we take the help of external memory, this particular instruction will be of great help. Okay, its variation is move X at DPTR comma A, means content of the accumulator will be going to the external memory location whose address is held by DPTR, whose address is held by DPTR. That is 2-byte address is held by DPTR. Okay, one more variation is also here, move XA comma at RI. I can be 0 or 1. I told earlier also, when you are working with indirect addressing mode, you are allowed to use R0 and R1 only. R0 and R1 only. So that is why at R0 or at R1 you can use. What it does actually, moves to the accumulator a byte from the external memory whose 8-bit address is pointed to by R0 or R1. So if I write here at R1 and R1 is pointing to something like 38H or something like 56H, we'll take 56H. So the content of 56H will come to the accumulator from outside, from external memory. And here its variation. Now A is source actually. A is the source. Accumulator is the source. From accumulator, a byte is moved to the external memory location whose 8-bit address is pointed to by R0 or R1. Okay, I hope you got it. It's all what I am explaining in this particular session is the consolidated explanation of all the instructions we have used in module number 1, 2, and 3. So what I'm doing here in a proper flow, the instructions are to be understood by you. So that is why I have listed here. The basic explanation already I have given, but still as a flow I'm going to explain here. Okay, JB bit comma target as well as a JNB bit comma target. So both are 1-bit instructions. You jump to the target. You jump to the target if bit is equal to 1. Here, if bit is equal to 0, means if bit is set, you go there. If bit is not set, don't go there. Go to the immediate next instruction. Here, what happens? If the bit is not set, go to the target where you are willing to go. Maybe delay program or whatever it is, whatever subroutine. You go there, or else you try to execute the immediate next instruction. The assembler will do that. Okay, right. Next, JBC bit target. This is something special in comparison with JB. You just see here. This is JB and this is JBC, right? What it does, what special it does, I should say. It will also jump to the target if bit is set. Set means 1, logic 1. But after transferring the control to the target, before going to the next instruction, it will clear the bit. It will clear the bit. That is, if you want that type of the activity from your program, you can use it. You're free to use JB or JBC, but it should be in accordance with your objective. With what objective you are writing the program. So it should satisfy that particular object. Accordingly, you choose. Then comes JC target. Okay, jump to the target if carry equal to 1. Don't if carry equal to 0, we use JNC target. So two instructions are here. One is JC target. The second one is JNC target. Okay. Now the next one is unconditional jump. Jump at A plus DPTR. Jump indirect because indirect addressing mode is used here. At A is used here. So accordingly, it is called as the instruction which belongs to indirect address. JNC I have already explained. JZ and JNZ. At once I'll explain these two. If the accumulator content is 0, go to the target as far as JZ is concerned. If the accumulator content is not 0, if it is 1, then go to the target when you are using JNZ. So these two are alternatively used. If the accumulator content is 0, go to the target. Here, if the accumulator content is not 0, go to the target. Okay. So that is how I have arranged the instructions here. So that when you read, you will remember like after JZ, JNZ. So they are used in combination. Okay. Alternatively also you can use. Okay. Again, it depends on your programming skills, how you develop your programming skills, and the skills are different from student to student, person to person. One thing you keep in your mind, your number of instructions should be as less as possible because the execution time, the total execution time of the program depends on the number of instructions, because each instruction will be having different machine cycles. If your machine cycles increase, naturally the time taken for execution also increases. So for effective programming, you should see that your number of instructions should be as less as possible. It's a tip to you. Okay, next. Here, all the jump instructions are listed. Already I have explained all these things. It's a list. And these are all listed under one heading called as J condition target. These are all conditional jump instructions. D, J, and Z. Decrement and jump if not 0. Then only you go. If it becomes 0, execute the next instruction. And CJNE A comma hash. It compare A with the value of the accumulator. If you are using accumulator, if you are using resistor, then resistor will come like R2, R3, whatever it is. Compare that with the value and jump if not equal. If it is equal, go to immediate next instruction. it's elaborately given here. Decrement and jump if not 0. In this instruction, a byte is decremented, and if the result is not 0, it will jump to the target address wherever you want to go. Otherwise, the immediate next instruction will be executed. It can be direct. Sometimes, like you can also write D, J, and Z 30H, comma target. So three variations are there. If you see carefully here, three variation you find here. One is accumulator, second one is resistor, and the third one is direct. So while you are making your notes, you make the compact notes, and under the heading D, J, and Z, you write all the three. First A, then RN, then direct. The next instruction is CJNE, destination byte, comma source byte, comma target. Certainly, it is a 3-byte instruction. Compare and jump if not equal. The magnitudes of the source byte and destination bytes are compared. If they are not equal, it jumps to the target address. If they are equal, immediately next instruction will be executed. The immediate next instruction will be executed. Okay. So you can write CJNE A comma R1, whatever is that. Then target also you can write. Content of A and location content are compared. If they are equal, go to the next immediate instruction. If they are not equal, jump to the target. That is what it is written here. Okay. Then A call target, A call, L call. These are all used in the counter programs. We have seen in the previous two presentations in the module number 3 and little bit in module number 2. Also, we have used this instruction, A call and L call instructions. A call means absolute call. L call means long call. L call is used when the time delay is very high. In the context of the microcontroller, if you are asked to put a delay of something like 1 second, 2 second, or even quarter second, it is a long delay. That time you can use L call also, but most of the time, usually the delays expected from you is in terms of millisecond, microsecond, like that. So better you use A call. A call delay. Delay is a subroutine, so you call that subroutine. It calls a subroutine with a target address within 2K bytes from the current program. L call, long call, okay, very rarely used. L call is a 3-byte instruction in which 1 byte is opcode. Opcode is there corresponding to L call, and the other two are used for 16-bit address of the target subroutine. Because L call itself is a long call, your 16-bit address is required because the count which is going to be stored in that 16-bit address goes up to FF. So that is why 16-bit. But in the A call, what happens? In the A call, 11 bits are used for the target subroutine. 2 to the power of 11, I think if you work out, it will give you 2K. 2K. I have also shown the workout there. 5 bits are used for the opcode. The opcode for the A call is of only 5 bits, and the remaining 11 bits are used for target subroutine. I repeat again, why 11? Because 2 to the power of 11 works out to 2 kilobytes. I hope you remember. This instruction is very rarely used, A jump, that is absolute jump. We have not come across this particular instruction anywhere in the module number 2 or 3. So for time being, we'll keep it pending. But certainly we have used L jump and S jump. S jump is a short jump that is of 8-bit address with 8-bit address. L jump is with 16-bit address, and that too, most of the program, I think 90% of the programs, we have used short jumps only. But LJMP also we have used. You just try to recall in which program we have used it. It's a 3-byte instruction. The first byte is the opcode for the L jump, and the next two are for the target address, which is 16-bit. Okay. S jump is a short jump. It's a 2-byte instruction. The first byte is for the opcode, and the second byte is the address. But the important thing to be remembered here is the target address is between minus 128 to 127. So that means totally 256, that is 0 to 255 you can consider. That is one thing. The second thing is 0, if you keep it as a reference in between left and right side, minus 128 to 127. And in almost all the processor, 0 is taken as a positive number. 0 is taken as a positive number. So that is why 0 plus 127, make it 128. But minus 1 means left side, if you take from the reference, minus 1 to minus 128. So it works out to minus 128. Whatever it is, when you add them, it works out to 256. I think the point is clear here. Just go through in the meantime. 45 minutes. I was just checking whether the length of the video is sufficient or not, whether there will be any practical problems in uploading it. I'm just checking it. Okay, now let's continue from here. Some more instructions we'll take and then take a break and go to the next presentation. Okay, right. The next instruction is push direct, push and pop. These are the very special instructions. They are associated with your stack pointer. Why these are used at the outset? When you are working with rather when you have written a program, and in that program, if you are calling the subroutines, and if the subroutines also make use of your register B, accumulator, and some other registers and memory locations, what happens? Uh, by the time the control comes out of the subroutine and proceed to the main program, all the contents are spoiled. Means original contents are eliminated or spoiled. So in order to preserve the original values, original data, that is operand, for your accumulator, for register B, or some other register, general purpose registers. So the best uh, procedure here, or the best facility I should say, 8051 given to the users is push and pop instructions. Means that temporarily you store them in the stack pointer. Temporarily you store them in the stack pointer, run the delay subroutine or any other subroutine. Once you come to the main program, all the data which you have stored in the stack pointer earlier using push instructions, they are retrieved, they are taken back, and you can work on them. If you are not doing this, your original data will go, and your entire program is of no use. So that is the reason why push and pop instructions are used in all the processors, I should say, in 8085 microprocessor, 8086 microprocessor, your 8051 microcontroller here, or high level microcontrollers later on. Everywhere you find that the push and pop instructions are made use of, and one or two instructions are given as example also. I have listed here. Push 0e0h. Why 0e0h is given here? It is because e0 is the address belonging to the accumulator. You can't write push a directly here, or you can't write 03 directly. Instead, you have to write push 03, because 03 is the RAM address for R3 of bank 0. Similarly, I have shown here in the pop instruction, pop 0e0 means you retrieve the content of the accumulator whose address is E0, whose RAM address is E0. And you retrieve the content of R3 from bank 0, which was earlier pushed to the stack, and retrieve it, use it later. Okay. Then comes the return instruction. It is usually written at the end of all the subroutines. Return to the main program. To return to the main program, this instruction is used to return from a subroutine previously entered by instructions lcall and acall. And one special return is also there, return I, return from the interrupts. When you are using the interrupts, interrupt comes in the module number 5. Later on, we'll see that also. But as a passing reference, I'll explain here. Return I is nothing but return from the interrupt. You are using the interrupts. So once the interrupts usage is over, this is used at the end of the interrupt service routine. It is also used as a subroutine actually. Service routine is used as a subroutine. Once it is done, you have to use return I. Okay. More about it, I will explain in the module number 5 when we see the working of interrupts at length. Then comes increment instructions. It is used for incrementing, but what it increments? If I write INCA, content of the accumulator is incremented by 1. Okay, and INCRN, content of the register R1 or R5 is incremented by 1. So all the addressing modes are covered here. Direct is covered, indirect is covered. This is very special. INC at RI. When you are using indirect addressing mode, you assign, say, one location to R1. Then every time you need not write location 41, 42, 43, like that you need not write. In the loop, if you write INC at RI, every time it will increment the memory location and take the data from there and give you for the usage. Increment the byte pointed to by R0. It is written there. One example also I have given there. So that's the best part of this instruction. Then INC DPTR. INC DPTR. It increments the data pointer. DPTR is a 16-bit address, you know. The instruction increments a 16-bit register DPTR by 1. If the earlier address is 16FF, I have given one example here also. You just have a look, read it carefully. Move DPTR, comma, hash 16FFH. So what it does, it first assigns 16FF to DPTR. When you write INC DPTR anywhere in your program, what happens? 16FF is now incremented by 1, and your next address as far as DPTR is concerned is 1700. You can use this in the program where you need not change the DPTR address every now and then. You use INC. You can use in the loop also. You can use in the loop, and every time the address is going to be incremented, and you will have a better facility as far as DPTR addressing is concerned. So these are some of the basic instructions starting from the addressing modes, that is move instructions and all related addresses, jump instructions, subrouting instructions, then you have got increment instruction. So all L call, A call, absolute call, jumps, all these things I have covered here. In the next segment, I am going to cover the instructions starting from add A, that is arithmetic and logical instructions. We'll study there. Okay, and then we can wind up with the exchange instructions, swap instructions. So some more important instructions will be coming in the next presentation. I hope all these instructions are clear to you. Once again, you study them with the material which is given in the Google class. And in detail, I have explained all these things here. You can make them compact also. If time permits, what I will do, I will make them in a compact form and share with you. But from your side also, you can try that and write some programs on them and share with me. Okay, all the best.